attend to those things that you've put on your to-do list. Please avoid any distractions today. If there's anyone in your room, ask them to leave. If there is background noise in any way, try to eliminate it or get rid of it. Turn off your phone and focus on the session. We will finish before 11 a.m. today, but we may go over too. But we're here till we have time for this session till 1 o'clock actually, but we should finish well before that. And we take breaks at the top of the hour, okay? Now, I am recording this session here today, so there may be some hiccups along the way as I'm recording the session, and if there are any, hopefully there aren't, but if there are any things that slows us down because of the recording, then I'll just let you know as we go through the class. Okay, if you're looking to make up any classes, if you've missed any classes, our new website is up, and you can go to the website, and the area that you want to go to do makeup classes is the Get Back to Work training. And they're still working on the website, so there may be some areas that maybe broken links or areas that they need to fix. But you can start using this button here, Get Back to Work training, and the area that you go to is Makeup Missed Sessions, and you can either make them up in session 9 or in session 10. And all you do is you click on session 9, let's say, okay? Let's say you want to make it up then. You scroll down, you go to any of these dates, you determine I need to make up session 2, and you register for the session. Okay, so that's basically how it works. And that's where you go to make up classes. Okay, so today's agenda. We're going to go over interview techniques this morning. We're going to talk about social media because that's one of the tools, one of the assets that we have access to that we use to find employment. And just because you have a profile on a social media site like LinkedIn doesn't guarantee interviews. And if you're not getting interviews after creating a profile, then you either want to ask questions about the validity of your profile. You want to ask questions about whether your profile is working or not, or ask questions about whether you should even have a profile. Because having a profile, it requires maintenance and visiting and taking time, and time is valuable, right? So social media is good. You should have a profile, but you should have a profile that works. You don't want to just have a profile on LinkedIn because someone told you it's a good thing to do. You want to have a profile on LinkedIn that's generating interviews for you. We're going to talk about some ideas about that. We're also going to talk about how and where to apply. So are you spending most of your time applying for jobs online? Or are you spending most of your time outside of your house networking? Or are you spending most of your time on LinkedIn building a network? So if you're going outside of your house, you're going to networking sessions, building your network. If you're on social media, if you're spending most of your time on LinkedIn, you're doing the same thing, right? So are you networking or are you applying for jobs online? How are you distributing your time? Is it 50-50? 50% of your time you're online, 50% of your time you're using social media? Or is it 80-20? Or, we're going to talk about that. And then start applying. Where do you go to apply for jobs? So that's today's agenda. Those 4 things are what we're going to talk about. And we're going to start talking about interview techniques as our first area of discussion. So we're going to talk about interviews. Now, before we get started diving into the world of job interviews, we want to talk about how to get to the interview. Obviously, we've talked about this 5 sessions now, right? We've talked about how to devise your career path, right? Let me pull up the roadmap just very quickly here. Okay, so we're going to go to the roadmap here that we've been discussing for the past 5 weeks, right? So, or 5 sessions. So step 1 is ignite your inner fire. That's making sure you have the drive, the motivation, the fuel to go through this path. Step number 2 was to identify your career path, right? Once you've identified your top 3 priorities, you then create your resumes. And on the top of your resume is where your path resides, and the content of your resume is governed by that path. Now, again, we've been talking about all of this for 5 sessions. Today around 11:30, 12-ish, I have a member that wanted me to look at his resume. And I asked him to send me the job description and his resume. He's also a volunteer, so we give volunteers special attention when it comes to their resumes. And I asked him if he wanted to come on this session so I can look at his resume, look at the job description, and compare the two. And he said he wouldn't have a problem with that. And so today at 11:30 or 12ish, he's going to come online, and I would like to go over his resume while you're watching. And we're going to talk about the path. We're going to talk about the job description and the content of his resume. And there needs to be harmony between the path you've designated and the content you're putting on your resume. And most people don't receive interviews. They don't get a callback from an employer. They don't receive a callback when there is a conflict between the information you have on your resume and what the employers are looking for. If you put too much information on a resume, especially if it's conflicting information, then the employer is not going to get it. They're not going to see any harmony between what you have and what they want. Sometimes job seekers or applicants applying for a position think what needs to go on a resume is what they have done in the past. See, what you've done in the past is not necessarily relevant to what you're applying to today, right? And what I mean by that is, let me not create confusion here with that statement. There's a lot of things you've done in the past, some of which may be relevant, some of which may not be relevant. For instance, if I'm a salesperson, I also know customer service, right? If my resume speaks about sales and customer service, and I'm applying to a customer service job, the sales content may overshadow the customer service. When I send my resume to an employer, they may not instantly identify me as a customer service representative if I'm applying for a customer service job, right? So what we learned to do is to distinguish the information, right? So if I'm applying for a customer service position and that's my path, step 2, I want to create a resume at step 4 that speaks to customer service. Now, what does this have anything to do with the interview process? Well, you see, when you create a resume that speaks to a specific area, in this case, customer service, right? Let's say I know sales and customer service. When I create a resume that speaks only to the area that the employer is hiring for, let's say customer service, okay? When I go to an interview, I know what I'll be speaking about. So my resume is a guide for me to help me communicate my message during the interview. If I have too much information on the resume, if my resume is talking about everything that I've done in the past, then when I go to an interview, not only will I be confused about my conversation, what I will be speaking about, but I'll confuse the employer too. You see, when I go to an interview, I must argue relevancy. I must argue that I'm a relevant applicant, that I have all the skills this employer wants, especially when they compare me to other applicants, that I am the best fit for this position, right? So when we talk about the interview, which is stage 5 here, the resume is my guide. So if your resume does not contain focused, specific information about that position, then when I go to an interview, it will be difficult for me to perform, right? Again, the resume is my guide. So now that we have talked about that, let's go back to our original question. What is the key to winning an offer following a job interview? Okay, so I just completed a job interview. What is the key to winning the offer? Well, the key to winning an offer starts with this step here. Okay, first, we got to ensure that our presentation, the one we prepared for this interview, is based on honesty. Now, honesty is something that you are innately born with. So we are all born honest. You know, if you look back at the history of philosophy, philosophers are conflicted on this, in that some philosophers believe human beings are no different than animals, in that we are only interested in ourselves. Our needs comes first. Survival is the leading motive for any human being, and that we don't care about other people. That's one school of thought. Another school of thought, another group of philosophers believe that we are intrinsically good. We are born as individuals who want to do good. That's what differentiates us from animals, in that, sure, survival is important, but we care more about being good than we care about being bad, right? And when someone becomes bad, when someone becomes dishonest, it is a variation or a mutation, a change in what's intrinsic. And which school of thought is right? Are we born to be bad? Are we, focused on, are we selfish creatures only interested in ourselves? Or are we born good? Are we intrinsically focused on being or going after what's good? And if you look at evidence, if you look back in history and look at evidence of support for either one of those claims, you'll see that humans are intrinsically good. When you look at the bombing in Boston, you remember the marathon bombings? There are pictures of people who knew they're in danger, but were running towards the bomb, towards the blast, to help others. That's the intrinsic good. They weren't thinking about whether they should do this or run away. They subconsciously, intrinsically, they ran to help other people. If you were walking down the street and you saw a baby crying on the side of the street, will you reflexively, would you automatically think, I don't care, I'm going to walk away? Or will you walk towards the baby? You see, we are born to be good, right? And so we are also born to be honest. When we are not honest in any area of our life, it conflicts with what is intrinsic, and that's when unhappiness begins. So whenever we are not honest, it actually hurts us more so than it hurts anybody else. It hurts you internally when you find yourself in situations that you're not honest about something. So honesty is good for you. It is just like you eat vegetables and protein to be healthy. You exercise to be healthy. You want to be honest so that you are happy, right? In fact, you can think of instances when someone was not honest, right? And what happens when someone's not honest? The first thing they feel inside is this weight. They feel as if they wish they would have been honest, right? And this weight pulls in on that individual, and the more of this occurs, the heavier this weight becomes. Some people learn to cope with that, but the weight nonetheless is always there. Why am I spending so much time talking about honesty? This is a no-brainer. I suspect all of you are honest. We don't even have to talk about this, right? That's a non-issue. Why am I even talking about this? I'm talking about it because sometimes people confuse common sense with honesty, right? You must have common sense, but you must also be honest. You see, sometimes we say things during an interview thinking we're honest, but we're really not exercising common sense. Sure, we're being honest, but we're not exercising common sense. And so you want to be honest and you want to exercise common sense. Let me give you an example. You know, when President Obama was campaigning for his presidency the first time around, Senator McCain, who was his opponent, who was President Obama's opponent at the time, claimed that President Obama lacks experience. Was that true? Did President Obama lack experience when compared to Senator McCain? And the answer is yes. He lacked experience when compared to the experience that Senator McCain brought to the table. But did Senator Obama at the time Did he argue lacking experience? Imagine if he went to a town hall meeting and he said, everyone, thank you for coming. You're all correct. Senator McCain is correct. I lack experience, but I will make a great president. Honest. Imagine if that was his argument. Would he get a lot of votes? Probably not, right? So what was his argument? His argument was that I have great judgment. He didn't even talk about, he didn't make an issue of experience at all, right? Instead, he talked about having good judgment. So he said, when I was in the Senate and I was voting with everyone else, I voted against Iraq, going to Iraq, right? And everybody else voted for it, and look what happened. I had better judgment. See, that's exercising good common sense, right? He chose an honest idea and talked about it. And just because you don't talk about something, does that mean you're dishonest? And the answer is no, right? This is important because you may be asked questions like, why did you leave your last job? If you were fired from that job, if you don't talk about being fired, you're not being dishonest because the question was not, were you fired? If that was the question, were you fired from your last job? Obviously, the only correct answer, the only honest answer is, yes, I was. But the question was not that. See, you want to make sure you're not confused about the question and exercise common sense. If the question is, why did you leave your last job? So there may be a lot of reasons that led to you being fired, and you can talk about those reasons and not talk about being fired, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but I just want you to know at this point that being honest is not just important, it is essential. And to be honest, you just simply recognize the intrinsic good within, right? That's point number one. Point number two is don't feel attached to any position, right? Recognize that the next interview will be even better than this one. If you go to an interview and you feel like the position went to someone else, no worries. You leave that interview and you go to a different position, or you go to a different interview. It just happens that whenever you leave one interview and you go to another one, the next interview offers better things, better pay, better benefits, It just happens to work out this way. And I can't explain why that is, but it just is. Not every time, but in most instances, when you leave one interview, you go to another, and it just happens to be a better scenario. And whenever you go to an interview, you are preparing for the next one. So remember, you're not interviewing for a job, you are preparing for the next interview. Now, if that interview that you're at turns out to be a position, great. You now have some decisions to make, right? But if it doesn't turn out to be a position, then no problem. The next one will be even better than this one, right? So never feel attached to an interview. They tell people who are shopping for a home never to be attached to any particular home because you end up paying more if you are attached to a particular residence when you're looking at them, right? So when you're shopping for a home, you're not attached to them. It's purely business, right? And it's purely, your decision is based upon what works for you and whether it's a good business decision. And if that home is available, then great. If it's not, then you'll find a better one. And the same idea applies here. Number three, when you go to an interview, remain focused. So it's difficult to remain focused if you haven't researched the organization. You want to research the organization before an interview and make sure your responses are focused around your research. If the company cares about ABC, don't talk about XYZ, right? And when you don't research the company, you may very well talk about XYZ, thinking XYZ is important when the company really cared about ABC. So make sure your conversations are focused around what the employer cares about, not what you think the employer cares about, or not what you have done in the past. What you've done in the past is not relevant unless you depict only those things from your past that are relevant, right? We talked about this a little bit earlier today. Next, speak only to answer the question. One of the most common experiences hiring managers go through when interviewing applicants is that they interview applicants who like to talk, who like to speak. And it just happens that when applicants speak, they speak about a lot of what doesn't apply to what the hiring manager is looking for. This has to do with something we spoke about last week, listening, right? The art of listening. See, hearing is different than listening. Hearing is the activity when some sound waves hit your ear and they bounce off. That's hearing. You've heard something. I just heard a noise outside. That's hearing. But listening is when you take the information and you use your past experiences to understand what that information really means and how it relates to you. That's listening. The problem some have when they are at an interview is if you have habitually trained yourself to construct responses whenever someone's talking to you. So instead of listening, you are hearing what a person's saying and you are constructing a response in your head. If you've ever been in this situation where you're talking to someone, before you're finished, they tell you what you should be doing, or they tell you their opinion. And sometimes their opinion has very little to do with what you're saying, but it doesn't matter because they weren't listening anyhow. They were constructing a response. And if you're one of those people, if you are habitually one of those who constructs a response while someone's talking to you, then you're going to have a difficult time at an interview, because when someone's interviewing with you, they're telling you what they want, you're already constructing a response. In most cases, that response may or may not have anything to do with what the employer's talking about. So speak only to answer the question. Be brief and be specific. What specific means here is that be specific around what the job description and what your research tells you the employer is looking for. Okay? Let's go to the next point. The next point is learn the art of the argument. See, when you go to an interview, you are arguing a point. And when we talk about an argument here, we're not talking about two people arguing, right? That's a different principle. We're talking about the art of argument. It's the same art that attorneys or judges use to persuade a party, right? They argue something to make their point. And the art of argument is not to sell yourself. I'm sure you've heard this phrase, when you go to an interview, sell yourself. Next time someone tells you that, have them describe what that exactly means. Because when I hear the word sell yourself, I envision a salesperson at a car lot or a furniture store. You go to buy a couch and a salesperson approaches you and they're selling themselves and they're selling their company and selling their product. Is that what that means, or is it have a different meaning? So I'm unclear as to what that phrase means, nor can I describe it to you. I can't tell you how to sell yourself. Maybe you have an answer for that. But, most people who say sell yourself really don't know what that really means. The art of argument also doesn't mean give an elevator speech. I've heard that sometimes they say, when you go to an interview, prepare your elevator speech. And the elevator speech is like a 30-second presentation. The problem with the elevator speech is that your 30-second presentation is one that describes you without taking the employer's needs into consideration, right? What if what you're saying is irrelevant to what that employer is looking for? And the last time you heard someone give you an elevator speech, think about it. Were you convinced of that idea? When was the last time you were convinced of doing anything for anyone when they tried to convince you using an elevator speech? And if you are not convinced, when someone tries to convince you using an elevator speech, why would you try to convince anyone else of anything? So the art of the argument is neither one of those two, right? The art of the argument is actually based on the science of arguing a point using premises to argue a conclusion. So let's say our conclusion is you should hire me as a salesperson. And I'm using the salesperson just because that's the one that came to mind. You know, it could be anything else. It could be an operations manager. It could be a customer service agent. It could be anything, right? So you should hire me as a fill in the blanks. If that's your argument, tell me which one of these three are the most effective, the strongest arguments. Argument number one, I'm human, I like cats, I'm a great person, therefore you should hire me as a salesperson. That's argument one. Argument two, I'm a salesperson, you need a salesperson, I enjoy selling, so you should hire me as a salesperson. You can see argument two is stronger than argument one. And when we try to argue a point, you usually have a conclusion. Like a conclusion could be, hey, let's go to San Francisco. It's going to be great. That's a conclusion, right? Conclusion is, if we go to San Francisco, it's going to be great. Now, I need to have some premises there to support my argument. What's going to make going to San Francisco great? So those are going to be your premises. And you can have an unlimited number of premises, but you can only have one conclusion, right? So you can argue like argument number two using that model, or you can use model one. But really the best model is model three. See, the model three is similar to model two, except every premise has a support behind that premise. So look at argument three. I'm a great salesperson, and then you support it with a story, right? So why should you hire me? I'm a great salesperson. 2 weeks ago, okay, so let me not use time period. So I'm a great salesperson. My last supervisor, if you were to speak with him, he would tell you that I was the best salesperson in our organization because every month I exceeded the quotas that the organization set for their salespeople. And I was consistently among the top 5 within our organization. Now, I understand that you need a salesperson, so that's premise 2. I understand that you need a salesperson, and I need to support that premise. You need a salesperson because in your job description, clearly you're outlining the need for someone who can do X, Y, Z, right? And X, Y, Z is whatever that job description is describing. Maybe you know they're looking for a salesperson, not because you read the job description, but because one of your friends who's among your network told you that they're looking for a salesperson, and this is why they need a salesperson. Remember that every time a company fills a position, they're looking to fill that position for a reason. There is a issue, or there's a pain that the organization is experiencing, or there is some outcome that the organization is looking to achieve, and they can't achieve that outcome unless they fill this position. And so when you say on premise 2, I understand you need a salesperson, right? So right here, when you say, I understand that you need a salesperson, you're saying, I have done research. I know why you're looking for a salesperson. Here's the reason. And then premise 3, you say, I'm the salesperson for your need. So I'm the salesperson for your need. So in premise 2, you already told them you know why they need a salesperson. And in premise 3, you say, I'm the salesperson because, and you tell them, and you support it with a story. You support why you would be the right salesperson for that need. So can you see how argument 3 would be the best argument for this conclusion? You should hire me as a salesperson, right? So when you go to an interview, you keep your conversations concise and focused by arguing your points. If you notice, if you follow this model, if you follow the model of argument 3, there is no fat during the conversation. You've essentially cut all the fat. You are speaking in a clear, concise fashion without saying anything extra that could jeopardize being eliminated from the interview process. Next point, when you go to an interview, answer the questions asked with confidence. Now, where does confidence come from? Well, confidence comes to you when you prepare for something. Think about someone who's extremely shy. And this person takes on the game of golf. Now, in every situation, this shy person is not very confident, takes the back seat in most situations. But now that he or she's playing golf, he invests a lot of time in preparing. He plays golf every day, 3-4 hours a day. He goes to the best instructor and learns the most effective strategies in swinging this golf club. And initially when he started, he was swinging it the natural way. And it was like swinging it like a baseball bat. And he couldn't play golf very effectively. But after months of training, he or she became a highly effective golf player. Eventually, this person read every article about golf, learned the history of golf, and continued practicing every day. Now, even though this person is shy, when it comes to playing golf, this person is very confident. Now, think about this. This person goes to a party, and normally he would go to some corner and mind his own business or her own business. But suddenly there's a conversation about golf. What would happen to this person who's normally shy? It would become transformed, right? Think about this person. Suddenly you would walk up and start talking about golf because golf is something this person knows. Where did confidence come from for this person? It came from the knowledge of this subject, right? In this case, golf. So where does confidence come from? Confidence comes from being knowledgeable. We call it your knowledge bank. So there's this area in your brain called your knowledge bank, and information that's repeated goes into your knowledge bank and stays there. It doesn't leave your knowledge bank. See, for instance, if I say to you, what is your name? Okay, now forget it. Can you forget your name? You can't. If I said to you, what is 2 times 2? Almost instantly the number 4 pops into your head. How was that possible? Why didn't you say 8 or 10 or 21? Why did you recite the number 4? Some people say because 2 times 2 equals 4. But what if growing up you trained your knowledge bank with 2 times 2 equals 21? Today, after training yourself in that way growing up, if I said what's 2 times 2, you would instantly say 21, right? So you're saying 4, not because 2 times 2 equals 4, but because you've trained your knowledge bank to respond that way. So when you go to an interview, you want to take questions that are most commonly asked. And go to Guide 3. You have all received Guide 3 after training session 3 and 4. Right? This is session 6. When you went through session 3 and 4, you received Guide 3. In Guide 3, you have all of the questions that you may be asked in an interview. You want to take those questions, research responses that we did as an exercise, and when you come up with those responses, when you identify the responses, you want to then make reflexive, make automatic answers to those questions. So here's an example. You go to an interview, and they ask you, what is your minimum salary requirements? Now, you can either answer that question with a number, which is the least effective manner in responding, because you may miss the mark every time. If you mention a number that's too high, it may eliminate you from the process. If you mention a number that's too low, you may convey lack of confidence, right? Because someone who's confident in the job may ask what that position usually pays as an average, right? So if you mention a number, you may miss the mark every time. But if you prepare a response, and just as 2 times 2 equals 4, you enter that information into your knowledge bank in the same way. Then when you're asked that question, anytime in the future during an interview, you don't have to think about it. The answer is recited reflexively. So here's an example. What is your minimum salary requirements? You may respond with, thank you for asking that question. At this juncture of my career, I'm not so concerned about compensation as much as I am about knowing that when you hire me, I can be an asset to this position. See, I understand that your company is expanding into China and you're looking for someone who speaks Chinese. Over the past 10 years, I have prepared for this position because I'm fluent in Chinese. I have established skill in building relationships with people in foreign countries, especially those with the Chinese in the Chinese culture, and for that reason, I know that this is the right position for me. And when I came to this interview, I was excited to speak with you precisely for this reason. Just out of curiosity, can you tell me a little bit about what top producers do in this position to be considered by your organization a top producer? Notice I responded and I shifted the response to a question so we can have a conversation about the requirements of the position. Let's say the employer is not satisfied and they ask that question again. They say, well, Fred, thank you for that response, but I really need to have a number that outlines your minimum salary requirements. And I may respond with something like, you've made it clear that you are looking for a response to that question, and I appreciate that. My concern is if I was to give you a number, it may be an inaccurate one because at this juncture of my career, I'm not so concerned about that number. I'm more concerned that when you make the decision to hire me, that I can be a top producer, I can perform, be productive. I realize that the person that's productive in this position is a person who can be productive, build relationships in a foreign country with little or no supervision. And over the past 10 years, those are precisely the skills that I've honed. Now, just out of curiosity, what have you budgeted for this position? Now, let's say they say, well, $45,000 a year. And I may say something like, that sounds about right. And if they say, well, I really need to know a number, Fred. It needs to come from you. What is the number? I may say something like, look, I understand you're looking for a number. Any number that increases my candidacy for this position, feel free to put that number on the application and I won't argue with that number. I want to ensure that once we're past that number, that I have all the skills your company is looking for to be the leading applicant considered for this position. And then I ask another question. So notice when I responded to that question, I knew exactly what my position is. I responded with poise and confidence, and I made my case clear that I want to answer the questions, but my objective is specific, and that is to talk about skills that obviously the company cares about as well, not so much a random number. This is a problem a lot of you have with online applications. They ask you for, what is your minimum salary requirements, right? We're going to talk about online applications a little bit later on. But I want to make this point about that question. What is your minimum salary requirements? If they don't give you an option to put open or negotiable, and you have to select a number, the best strategy is to know your average. Know what that position pays as an average. And at anycouncil.org, the National Employment Council website, we have some areas that you can go to and accomplish this. Do a search of what the average is, and I'll show you where that is when we're done with this session. So you want to know what your average is and select a choice that's about 10% lower than average, as long as you're okay with that, right? So you don't want to select a number that you know you're not okay with. But a greater issue about selecting a number is really whether selecting a number is aiding you or harming you. Think about that. If I said, fill out this online application, and in order to be selected for the position, choose a random number from 1 to 10, and you must select the right number to be chosen for this position, how would you know what number to select? What if you choose the wrong number and you're eliminated from the process? At NEC, we feel that question has the same connotation. You know, what is your minimum salary requirements? If that question is used to screen out certain applicants, then it's not really helping our workforce within each community. So what we have done at NEC, and I want to invite you to participate in this, is that when you go to this page, our homepage, right? That's necouncil.org. On the bottom, there's a link for legislature, and I'd like to invite you to click on this. And where it reads View Examples, I want you to read this page. These are some of the examples of legislature that we feel is needed to help empower our workforce and our economy. There are questions that are asked on the online application that don't help the employers either. You know, they don't help the applicants, they don't help the employers. And we want to make sure, just as there are laws that create a level playing field for the workforce, like anti-discriminatory laws, you can't be chosen for a position or be considered for a position based on age or sex or national origin or color of your skin, right? So in the same manner, you shouldn't be considered for a position based on some random questions that show up on an online application. You can also go into trends here and tell us how you feel about this by completing one of these surveys. The surveys don't collect your information, right? They provide you with information about trends in your area. And when you complete a survey, you can then take a look immediately after that survey. You can take a look to see what others have said, and it shows you some graphs and trends about what's going on in your area. So one of the questions is about minimum salary requirements, right? It's one of the questions here as you go through it. So at any rate, I wanted to bring those two resources to your attention. One is legislature and one is trends. In any case, let's get back. We got sidetracked there a little bit, but it had to do with answering the questions during the job interview and answering them with confidence. All right, let's go to the next point. Here's a question that you could be asked to answer with confidence. You want to be prepared, obviously, right? You want to take that information and put it into your knowledge bank. So the question, why should we hire you, could be answered in the following way. I realize you're probably interviewing other applicants. I also realize that you're expanding into China and are looking for someone who speaks Chinese. By the way, this is just a scenario that I came up with. You can fill in the blanks. Replace expanding into China and speak Chinese with anything else that you know about the company, right? So this is just a random scenario I chose. This move requires hiring someone who knows how to resolve issues in a foreign country with little or no supervision, someone who's self-motivated but also knows how to influence clients in foreign countries and build meaningful relationships. These qualities are my strongest assets. And then you got to support that client. You can support it with a story. And then you can say, I speak Chinese and I'm prepared to move to China when you hire me. That's your conclusion, right? Here's another one. Why did you leave your last position? Right? Remember we talked about this a little bit earlier. You can either say, I was fired. That's one way to respond. And it's the truth. Let's say you were fired and you're telling them the truth. But here you're not exercising common sense. A better way to answer that question may be in the following way. Let's say, before I answer it a second way, using an alternative method, let me build the scenario here. Let's say you work for an organization, you work in Department 1, but you sometimes go to Department 2. And in Department 1, there is a manager that really likes you. People there really like you too. And you have fun in that department, in Department 1. and you're productive there, and it's a great place to work for when you're in Department 1. But every once in a while, you have to go to Department 2. And when you go there, it's a different manager, it's a different set of people, and everyone in Department 2 is very dry, almost militaristic, you know, and everyone's in their own cubicles, and every once in a while, this manager comes to your cubicle, and he's not very nice. And in Department 1, when you have an idea, you share it with your manager and he applauds you for your innovative thinking. But when you're in Department 2, he doesn't want to hear what you have to say. And in fact, a few times you shared your opinion, he shut you down, and then eventually he fired you. See, one day when you were in Department 2, this other manager that doesn't like you fired you. So you left the organization and you're looking for new employment, and you go to this interview with a prospective employer and they ask you, why did you leave your last position? One way to answer is, I was fired. The other way to answer is to say, well, I worked for this organization with a group of people that I loved. You're describing Department 1. I had a manager that I got along with and we worked very well together. In fact, very frequently I was applauded by this manager for my innovative approach. I was a team player. I had integrated myself in their culture. But there came a point with that organization that no longer could I see myself long term. And it's important that I integrate myself within the organization in a way that I can see myself being an asset to that organization long term. There were some changes within that organization that shifted that focus. And so we parted as friends, and that's why I came to this interview today, because everything I'm looking for in an organization to be an asset long-term, this organization, your company has, and here's what I mean. And you talk about those things. Notice, I didn't talk about being fired. I talked about why I left. That was the question. The question was not, were you fired from your past position? In fact, that question is not one employers can ask without legal ramifications. But they can ask this question, why did you leave your previous position? And even this is, they're on an employer. Most employers don't even go there, right? But, they may ask you, were you happy with your previous position? Or tell us a little bit about your last position. But even if they were to ask you this question, then you want to answer it in a way that conveys the positives. The negatives don't matter, right? Unless it's something that affects your being an asset or being a viable candidate for this new employer. For instance, let's say you work for this organization, you hurt yourself, and you have a difficult time walking, and your new employer requires you to walk. You want to be open with them and tell them, I did my previous position, I left because I hurt my knee, and I can't walk long distances, and I realize this position requires that I walk long distances, so I thought I'd bring this up. See, those kind of things you want to bring up because you don't want to waste anybody's time, right? You don't want to waste their time, their efforts in hiring you, only to find you can't walk, right? But when you're asked the question like, why did you leave your last position? You want to use your common sense in responding in a way that only focuses on the positives and then demonstrates why you can be an asset to that organization's bottom line. All right, let's go to the next. Let's review all the keys. So you want to be honest. Don't feel attached to any particular position. Answer the questions asked with confidence. Remain focused and speak only to answer the question confidently, right? Don't overspeak when you're at an interview. There are some other important tips to consider. When you're asked about the past, only talk about the positives. We already talked about that. Tell stories. Be good at telling stories. And demonstrate a track record of success. Right? So when you're talking and you're talking about your background, and it gets to the part where you're going to support your claims, and you tell a story to support your claim, make sure you touch upon your track record of success with a previous employer. Okay, so this concludes the interview techniques portion of this presentation. Now, I want to refer everyone to Guide 3 to review how to answer the questions that are contained within that guide. Guide 5 is currently under revision, which is the interview guide. And as soon as it's put together, as soon as it's revised, everyone in this session will receive a free copy of that guide. So if you have any questions, you can always come to our future sessions as a graduate of this program. By the way, to come to future sessions as a graduate of the program, you simply come to our homepage, anycouncil.org, click on Get Back to Work Training, and see right here where it reads Already Graduated, you click on Meet a Career Coach. And you come here, Meet a Career Coach, here. This is only for graduates because you're going to need a password to get in, and the password will be sent to you once you graduate. So you can select the date, and then on that date, you can come online. You'll get a link that you can click on that date. You'll come online, and you can ask any questions you have about your resume, about interviewing. Of course, those of you that are members, you receive additional support beyond this. So when you become a member, you can also meet a career coach, but this meeting is far more entailed than the one graduates receive, right? And so as a member, obviously you receive a lot more attention because you have donated your membership fee, your annual fee to our projects, and so we appreciate that greatly. Now, it's almost time to take a break. Before we I want to take the break early, and I want to ask everyone to do the following. If you could go to our new website, go to anycouncil.org, right? Go to this page, and I'd like to ask you to go to the trends area and complete the survey. So take about 3 or 4 minutes to complete this survey, and you don't have to include your email address, and if you do, it's protected, and so we don't share your email address with anyone. One of the things that NEC doesn't do is sell information to employers. And so your information is protected with us. But you don't have to share an email if you don't want to. So you go in here, not that we don't have your email address. As a graduate, we already have it. So go in here, fill out the survey. It's the employment condition survey. Then take your break at 10 o'clock, and we're going to come back at 10:10. So 10 minutes past 10, we're going to come back. Okay? Also, tell us, give me some feedback on the new website. Tell us if you like it or not. They're still working on a lot of these areas here, but they chose to put it live so your class can go through, take a look at it, give us some feedback, and take the survey. Okay? And I'll see you at 10 minutes past 10 o'clock. Back. Hello again, everybody. I hope you all had a good break. So before the break, we spoke about the interview, right? And we shared some ideas about interviewing effectively. And the commonly asked questions that you will most likely be asked during an interview is contained within Guide 3. And as soon as Guide 5 is completed with its revisions, you would get a copy about some additional ideas on how to interview effectively. So the next point we're going to talk about today during this session is social media. Now, why is social media important? Well, social media is important because networking is important. Now, why is networking important? Well, think about this for a second. Today, you can either apply for a job online. And you've all had an experience with that. You go to a page to apply for a job online. It takes you to another page, and then you click on a link. It takes you yet to a third page. Before you know it, you are in this black hole going in circles. And hopefully you find your way and you find a position that you're going to apply to. The process of applying consists today of tests and assessments, and it could very well take about an average of 30 minutes to an hour to apply for any given position. Now the question is, when you apply for a position online, how do you know that position really exists? How do you know the application you sent to an employer will be viewed by that employer? Suppose that position, that site was created by someone there's a lot of different scenarios. Like, let me share one with you. Imagine if two students who are in a web class are told by their instructor to create a website, an employment site, and these two web developers went online, they cut and pasted jobs, they put it into their website, they put a timestamp that renewed itself, and when they completed the site, they received an A for the class, but then they went about their business, taking other classes, but the site remained online. Google picks it up, you search for a job, their site comes up, you apply for one of the jobs they have online, but those jobs really don't exist. They were cut and pasted through some other site, and your resume goes to some server in some folder no one's going to see. This is just one scenario. Another scenario could be a company offshore, in, let's say, India, that creates a website with the aim of collecting information from U.S. residents, by asking roundabout questions, they can then acquire your shopping habits. They do this for millions of people who visit their site and eventually sell that information. This is a second scenario that could be occurring. There are lots of other scenarios. So you could be applying to a job you may or may not know exists. Therefore, before you apply to a job, you want to make sure that you've confirmed the position. Now, how do you confirm a position? Well, either you call the employer and confirm the position, or someone in your network confirms it for you. That's why networking is important, is when you build your network and you have a large collection of people whom you know, who are out there, and they know you're looking for employment, you're going to start getting referred out to employers. So social media plays a big part here because it's an area that you could quickly, with very little cost, little or no cost, build a large network that would then refer you out to employers. Now the question is, how do I create a profile on LinkedIn that would ensure a positive outcome for me? Or if I have a profile on LinkedIn, right, what is my goal? My goal is to get interviews. And how do I ensure that when I have a profile, I am getting interviews, right? So there are two strategies you can follow. One is a non-active strategy. The other one is a proactive strategy. A non-active strategy is one where visitors search for a particular position and they find you. The other is proactive, where visitors are invited by you. It's difficult to follow both strategies, right? You could either have one or the other. The non-active strategy is where you create a profile and you put all of your information in your profile, and if someone was to search for some word or some information that your profile contained, they would find you. The problem with that strategy is that if, let's say, your profile contains customer service or operations management or PHP language in programming, so does millions of other people with that profile. And you may not be among the top 30 or 40 people that the search yields. So that's the problem with that strategy, is that if you are counting on visitors finding you, they may or may not find you. Unless you are in a field that's very specific and there are few applicants in that field, you may be waiting for that call. And this strategy, the non-active strategy, will be no different than applying for a job online, because either way you'll have to wait for a response. The proactive strategy is when you invite visitors to come to your site. So you actively pursue people on your network, and you pursue them not by asking them to refer you out, but by giving them something in return. See, networking is not about taking, it's about giving. And if your network receives benefits from having you on their network, then the consequence of that relationship is that they're going to give back. They're going to help you. And you want to give to your network without any expectations. So don't give expecting something in return. But just know that when you give, you will receive. Even though you have no expectations, you will receive. So that is the important caveat, the important part of this equation is that when you network, you must give, not take. So the proactive strategy is when you create a network and you invite visitors to your page. The problem with that strategy is that if you put too much information about your background, if you put everything, let's say, I'm going to use sales again. Let's say you're in sales and you know customer service and you know management. If you put those three ideas, information about those three ideas on your profile, suddenly you appeal to no one. Someone looking for managers will come to your site and they may leave with sales as their perception of your profile. Remember we talked about this in session 3 and 4 when we were talking about your resume, right? You want no one to get the wrong impression or the impression you don't want them to get about your resume. You want everyone to get precisely the impression you want them to get about your resume. So if you're sending out your customer service skills to an audience that's hiring for customer service, you want to leave no room for that audience to create the wrong impression about you. You want them to get the right impression about you every time. You recall how we did that on your resume. Well, same thing on your profile, right? You don't want people coming to your site and some may leave with sales, some may leave with customer service, some may leave with management. You just don't know who's going to leave with what or with which. A manager, someone hiring managers may come to your site and only see the customer service or get that perception about you. Someone hiring customer service may come to your site and get a feel that you're a manager, therefore you're overqualified. So that's the problem with putting too much information when you're being proactive. Now, what if you put only one skill on your profile? Let's say you know sales, you know customer service, and you know management, but you choose to only put customer service skills on your profile. What's the problem with that? Well, the problem is you alienate the other two, right? If you know sales, customer service, and management, and you only put skills that communicate management on your profile, well, someone hiring for sales who comes to your profile, or someone hiring customer service who comes to your profile, they may think you're overqualified. So the problem with the proactive strategy is that whether you put too much or put a focused profile, you would have a problem, right, when visitors visit your page. So the question is, which one of those two strategies are better? To put everything on your site and hope someone finds you, or to be proactive and invite visitors, but then what do you put on your profile? The answer is proactive as a strategy is much better, much more effective for you to go out and get visitors. And when they come to your profile, who says your profile should be a representation of your resume? Who says your LinkedIn profile should contain a list of your skills? See, your profile on LinkedIn should do very much what a cover letter is designed to do. A cover letter should be a three-liner that raises curiosity and entices the reader to read your resume. If a cover letter answers too many questions about your resume, then that cover letter is not doing its job. If a cover letter persuades someone to move away from reading your resume, then that cover letter hasn't done its job, right? A good cover letter convinces someone, interests someone in wanting to read your resume. And that's what a LinkedIn profile should do too. A LinkedIn profile should contain only enough content to get them interested in wanting to learn more. You should get them so excited about you without defining any specific skills that they want to know what kind of skills you have. So think about what are some things that anyone hiring for any position would want to know about someone before they read their resume. Think about that. What are some of the things any employer, any hiring manager, if you were a hiring manager, if you had your own business and you were hiring someone to sell pink chairs for your company, what would you want that person to have before they told you about their sales skills? You would want this person to be a team player. You would want them to have a good attitude. You would want them to be fun, but not too fun. You don't want them to be the kind of person who's always joking around or doing things that disrupts daily activities, but you want someone who has common sense, who can integrate himself within the culture of your organization, someone who understands productivity, someone who cares about your business and about positive outcomes for your business. So I can go on and on, right? All of which has nothing to do with the skill of sales. I didn't talk about the ability to overcome objections and rejection and knowing how to sell. I didn't talk about the techniques that are involved in selling. I only spoke about those things, some may call them soft skills, that complement my ability to sell. So your LinkedIn profile should contain that kind of information. When a visitor comes to your page, after reading it, they should get a positive opinion of you. Now, what about Facebook and other types of social media like Google+? Should you be using them? Some tell you you shouldn't, some tell you you should. My feel about both Facebook and Google+ or any other social media is that if it gives you enough security to present to non-friends, to the world, to present to the world, people whom you don't know, a favorable image of you, if it allows you to do that without them having access to private pictures, private things you allow only friends to see, if the security allows you to do that, then it's a good thing. It's a good thing to have a positive image of you, maybe a picture with the family when you're all smiling, maybe a picture of you in a business setting, maybe a picture of you hiking, some pictures that shows those positive images that we spoke about earlier. If you can put that on Facebook and Google+ and eliminate access to everything else, then that's a good thing. Because now you're showing the world something visual about you that other applicants may not be doing. You know how when you go to someone's profile, you like to see a profile with someone's picture versus a profile without a picture? In fact, stats show that when you have a profile with a picture, you get a lot more visitors than if you have a profile without one. Well, we are visual people. We like to see visually who we're dealing with. And so that's what Facebook and Google+ can do for you. Employers, if they were to search you online, and a lot of employers do today, and they came across some images of you or some pictures of you, you have that ability to create a favorable impression of you, something other applicants may not be doing. And this sets you apart. So if you have additional questions about social media, you feel free to ask at the conclusion of this session. And I want to talk a little bit about how to apply and where to apply. Well, some people ask me during these sessions, sometimes they ask, how do I complete an online application? Now, this is a commonly asked question. And our response usually is, who says you should be applying for jobs online? Is it fruitful to apply for jobs online? If it is, continue doing it. If it's not, why are you continuing to do it, right? Why are you continuing to apply for jobs online? It just happens that when you spend 80% of your time networking, 20% of your time will be spent applying for jobs your network sends your way. And that's the ratio you should invest anyhow. Right? So the correct ratio is 80-20. You should invest 80% of your time networking and 20% applying online. As long as your building your network 80% of your time, you're going to be too busy applying to jobs that were referred to you so that you don't have to randomly apply to jobs you know nothing about. My suggestion always is, don't apply for jobs randomly, jobs you know nothing about. That's not a good use of your time. And if you are going to do that, if you are going to apply for jobs randomly, then make sure you have confirmed those jobs. Physically pick up the phone, call the employer and say, hi, well, you don't have to even say your name. Say, hi, I'm calling to see if the position of XYZ, the one you've posted on your website, is currently open. Don't ask anything beyond that because the employer's busy, right? Don't ask, tell me about the position, what is compensation? That's not the time to do it. When you confirm a position, you're only calling to see if that position exists. And then apply for it. But otherwise, we suggest you don't apply for jobs online randomly when you know nothing about that position. I'm talking about whether that position exists or not. Are there employers out there that post jobs to collect resumes when those jobs really don't exist? Yeah, there are some. Not every employer does that, but some employers do that. And there are other reasons why an employer would post a job that doesn't really exist. There are other reasons behind it, but not every employer does that. You know, the good news is 90% of employers that post jobs are really looking for someone. The problem is you don't know how to sort through the 90%. You know, among that 10%, there's so many other scenarios, jobs that are posted that may or may not exist, that, you know, before you know it, your time is invested in the unknown, right? So invest your time networking so that then you can get referrals. And tell me something. If you were an employer, would you look at a job seeker more seriously if the resume came across your desk online or if the resume was referred to you by a friend? So referrals carry a lot more weight, and when you network, you get a lot of referrals. Of course, your network has to be built first, right? So just because you're networking does not mean you're going to get referrals. When you network, initially you're not going to get a lot of referrals, but eventually you build your network. And if you have 200 to 300 people in your network will take a life of its own. And you do have to invest some time on building your network, right? So that is something that requires investment of time. We will start a LinkedIn session within the weeks to come, and you'll get notifications as an alumni about those sessions. Okay, so what I would like to do at this time is start taking questions and answer any questions you have about the interview, social media, where to apply. And once the questions are done, I'm going to show you what our next step is as an alumni of NEC. Let me start from the top here. It looks like some of you tried to take the survey but were unable to, and I will take your feedback and send it over to our IT. Thank you for your feedback. Let's see here. Weston Williams asks, are cover letters no longer important, or did I miss a session? No, cover letters can be important, but really think about when you send a cover letter, what is the purpose of sending a cover letter? Do employers ask you for a cover letter? Why? Because it's more professional? And if you don't send a cover letter, are you less professional? Suppose you're in the business of selling pink chairs, and you get someone who sends you a resume. You're not convinced he can sell pink chairs, but he has a cover letter. You get another resume without a cover letter, but you're convinced this person is the best in selling pink chairs. Which will you choose? The one without a cover letter, whom you're uncertain about selling pink chairs, or the one with the cover letter, whom you're convinced may not be able to sell pink chairs, or the one without a cover letter, whom you are certain can sell the pink chairs? Which one of those two do you think you'll go with, right? So the cover letter is important only if it directs the employer's attention onto the resume. That means your cover letter should be no more than 2 or 3 lines. It should ignite the employer's curiosity to want to read your resume further, and it should not be a long-winded letter, because employers don't have the time to read cover letters and resumes. Think about this. You're an employer. You have 1,000 resumes, and you have 1,000 cover letters that went along with it. You need to hire for 2 positions. If you had a choice, which one of the 2 would you read to identify the right 2 people? Would you read all the cover letters? Would you read all the resumes? Or would you read all the cover letters and all the resumes? Think about it. And the answer is you would probably look at the resumes, because the resumes have your work experience contained, right? So again, cover letter, you should send it only if it raises curiosity and it inspires the employer to want to look at your resume. Tracy asks, there are online applications that want 10 years of work history. What if you don't have 10 years of work history or have gaps in employment? Based on how we learn to create resumes, you should never have a gap on your resume, right? So let me pull up a sample. Let me pull up a sample resume here. I want to, this is good for everyone, just to remind everybody about how we construct years of experience. Give me just one moment, everyone, so I can pull up my sample resume. Okay, here's my sample resume. You should be looking at it in just a few moments. It's pulling up. Okay, so I'm going to go to the very bottom of the page and remind everyone of this little analogy here. When you were a baby, when you were born into this world, you made us very happy. And as you're growing up, you reach this age of 16, and you couldn't work until you were 16, but let's say at age 14, you had a lemonade stand, and you gained experience selling. Then that selling is represented here with the figure ampersand. Then after 16, you took on some different types of jobs, right? You took different types of jobs after the age of 16, and you did customer service. It's represented here with this sign here. You did some sales for some other company. It's represented in the ampersand here. And you did some other things. You know, each one of these signs represents a skill. So you acquired all of these different skills from the age 16 to the age 25. From 25 to 40, you acquired some more customer service. So look, you have 3 customer service experiences at different companies from age 16 to 25 and from 25 to 40. You have more customer service here. You have all kinds of skills that are unique from age 16 to after age 60. Okay, now let's say you're applying for a customer service position. So I'm going to come to the top of the resume here, change my path, and if you haven't gone through session 3 or 4, register for the Get Back to Work Now project, complete session 3 and 4, which deal with the resume, right? So as we learned in those sessions, your path goes on the very top, and then what you do is, as long as this is your path, time doesn't matter. 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, it doesn't matter. What matters is your skill. So you go back in time and you take all of your customer service experiences. Remember, sequence no longer is relevant, right? We talked about this in session 3 and 4. So we're not creating a resume to cater to some sequence like we used to, because sequence is no longer relevant. Instead, we go back in time and we take those experiences that have to do with customer service, right? So here, I'm going to take all my customer service experiences or skills. And what do I do with everything else? Nothing. They're there. I don't include them on my customer service resume because they're not relevant. Remember the fruit juices if my skills were apples, oranges, and celeries, right? I don't mix those juices up into one big cup and give that cup to everyone. I separate those skills or those juices into separate cups. And I give apple juice to whoever's looking for apples, and I give orange juice to whoever's looking for oranges, right? So here I'm taking out all of my customer service skills and I'm extracting them. So let's say this was with company ABC. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to put company ABC. And, you remember what we did with these titles, right? So I'm not going to talk about that today, but you remember what we did with this. And if you don't remember, please complete session 3 and 4. So here we put customer service. Let's say customer service, you count them. Here it was 1 year. Here it was 3 years. That's 4 years. Here it was 4 years. That's 8 years. And let's say here you were in customer service for just a year. So that's 9 years of customer service. So you put 9 years of customer service. Now remember, I'm not communicating a sequence here. I'm communicating how many years of customer service I've been involved with. It's important to know what the objective of your resume is. My objective is not to communicate to an employer a particular sequence, because that doesn't tell them anything. The employer wants to know, if they were to hire me for customer service, whether they have made the right decision. They want to know, what is it about my customer service background that I'm trying to argue as relevant to their job description? So I am arguing through this manner of communication that I have 9 years of customer service with these companies. And I go back and I take these companies only, right? And I include those companies on my resume. And since sequence doesn't matter, I don't have dates here, so therefore there is no gap. Now remember, when an employer calls me on the phone, I make it clear as to what I've done here. So when they call me on the phone, I say, I worked for ABC company. I was a loan originator with ABC company. We talked about how to communicate that, right, through during session 3 and 4. So I don't want to take a lot of time here talking about what you do with the title. But you let them know, the way I've created this resume, Mr. Hiring Manager or Mrs. Hiring Manager, is not to communicate a particular sequence, but I'm communicating here my customer service experience to help you make an informed decision about my candidacy with your organization. This way I don't waste your time sending you skills or backgrounds that are not relevant to this particular position, because I've done a lot of different things, but obviously clearly here you are more interested in my customer service skills based on what I've read in the job description than you are in everything else that I've done in the past. Now if they say, well, I want to know everything else you've done in the past, then you could send them a resume that includes 20 years of experience, but there's a way to do that too. And we covered that during our follow-up sessions when you pose those questions to a career coach. And I showed everybody how to register as a graduate of the session for follow-up sessions, right? So you go to anycouncil.org. You go to anycouncil.org as a graduate. You click on Get Back to Work Training. And you go to Already Graduated, Meet a Career Coach. So if you have any questions beyond what I just told you, you can come here, register for a class, and ask your questions, and we'll be happy to answer those questions for you. But you'll have to have graduated from the Get Back to Work Now project, and a lot of you will graduate today, so you'll have access to this. I hope I answered your question, Tracy. If there are certain things that are still unclear about your question was, how do I communicate a gap on a resume? If you still have questions, or let me read the exact question. Your question was, there are online applications that want 10 years of work history. What if you don't have 10 years of work history or have gaps in your employment? This is how you do it on your resume. Now, if the question is about an online application, I go back to the original conversation about networking. if you're spending most of your time applying for jobs online, some of the online applications don't give you a choice in how you construct the application. My suggestion is that you network and get referred into a job so that then the online application carries less weight than does the resume. Now, there are ways you can communicate your message on the online application, but every application is different, and we don't have the time today to go through every type of online application and how to construct your information accordingly. But again, you can ask these questions if they're unanswered for you, Tracy, in any follow-up sessions in the future. Linda Huey asks, why do some companies keep posting the same job over and over again? This has happened even with jobs I've interviewed for and didn't get the job. Linda, I'm not sure which companies you're referring to, which employers specifically you're referring to, and I don't, I can, based on that question, I cannot point to what type of jobs they're posting over and over again. So there may be reasons. Some employer would post a job over and over again. If it's not filled, they would post it again. And there may be other reasons. But first we have to identify which company and then what type of position they're posting over and over again for us to then be able to answer that question. Bilal asks, should the online candidate profile in an employer website follow the same format as the resume, or should it contain detailed work experience like a CV? Yeah, you should communicate your message clearly and concisely the way you did on your resume on the online application as well. So the best scenario when completing an online application is to include the same information you included on your resume on the online application. If the online application requires that you insert dates and it doesn't give you any other options, and let's say your resume doesn't have dates, then that's okay. You can include the dates, but try to construct the online application in a way that doesn't answer all the questions, raises curiosity so that the employer would want to talk to you. Ultimately, the online application does not answer all the questions, no matter how you construct it. So they have to meet with you to learn more about things an online application cannot do. An online application cannot speak about your level of motivation, your teamwork, a lot of other things that a human being brings to the table an online application cannot do. So your ability to communicate in a way that raises curiosity, but at the same time communicates your skills as it pertains to the job description, and not more, not less, is a skill, and it's something that you want to work on every time you fill out an online application. If you have questions below beyond that, specific questions about a particular online application, you can attend one of our follow-up sessions in the future. Lisa asks, is it a good idea to contact the college you went to and get job recommendations from alumni department or director of business schools? Lisa, I'm not a fan of recommendations. You are the best recommendation of you. Recommendations are only good when an employer asks for it. So it's good to have the recommendations and offer them when you're asked to present them, right? And so yeah, the answer is it's good to have those recommendations, but I'm not a fan of offering them when you're not asked for them. It's a good idea to connect with your college and the alumni only to make them part of your network and to give them something. What you can give each person is different. You'll have to find out on LinkedIn when you're communicating with them what they're looking for. How can you help people who are part of your network? And as long as you have this outward mentality, give, not take, then you're going to see your network giving back. So yeah, it's a great idea to network with alumni in your college. Craig asks, other than building a network on LinkedIn, what are other good productive methods of networking? That's a great question. A great place to network is a job fair. Now, sometimes people say, well, a job fair is a waste of time. Why would I go to a job fair when there are really no jobs at the fair? The answer is You don't go to a job fair to find a job. You go to a job fair to build your network. So think about this. How many job seekers do you find at a job fair? Hundreds, right? Are all of those people going to remain unemployed indefinitely? The answer is no. A lot of them will get back to work. What if they were part of your network? What if you were friends with those job seekers whom you met at a job fair? Would that benefit you? And the answer is yes, because when those job seekers whom you networked with, who joined your network, when they find employment, they have the ability to hand deliver your resume to an HR manager and put in a good word for you. So you essentially have these ins, these contacts within organizations throughout your community because you networked with them at a job fair. Additionally, when you go to a job fair, you have an ability to network with employers who are connected with other employers. So think about this. I'm going to build a quick scenario for you here since the question came up. I want you to imagine for a moment two employers. One works for Disney and one works for Pepsi. Now, the employer for Disney is hiring IT people. The employer for Pepsi is hiring salespeople. Now, I want you to imagine for a moment that the hiring manager from Disney calls his friend at Pepsi and says, hey, do you have any IT people in your pipeline? And the guy at Pepsi checks his pipeline and he says, no, I don't, but why don't you come to the job fair tomorrow? You're apt to find someone. And the hiring manager at Disney says, I can't. We don't have a budget to go to job fairs. But hey, tell me, can you keep an open eye for me tomorrow when you're at the job fair for IT people? And the guy at Pepsi says, I'll be happy to. So the guy at Pepsi goes to the job fair. And he has this big banner, Pepsi, hiring for sales. And a lot of IT people walk by his booth. But not this one IT person. This one IT person walks up, extends his hand and says, hi, my name is Craig. I'm an IT professional. I've always been in IT. I enjoy being in that field, and I've always been very successful. Are you hiring anyone for IT? By the way, IT is information technology, and information technology is a general term I'm using for this example. You know, there's a lot of branches in IT, right? But just for the sake of example, replace the word IT with anything you like. Okay, so this applicant says, I've always been successful in the field of IT, and I was curious, are you hiring for this position? And the guy at Pepsi says, no, we're not. We're hiring for sales. Let me tell you a little bit about it. After the hiring manager is done describing the position, the applicant who is looking for an IT position says, thank you so much for taking the time and describing your position. It sounds like a great position to work for. What a great company to be in. But you know, my background does not make me an asset for this particular position, but I go to job fairs all the time. I'm always meeting applicants that are looking for these kind of positions. Can I get a business card? And when I go to job fairs, I meet applicants looking for this sales position. I'll get the word out. And can I leave a resume with you? Feel free to refer my resume out when you come across someone looking for my background. And then I, thank this person, thank the hiring manager, and walk away. Did I just make a friend? I did. Did I network? I did. Did I leave a resume for this hiring manager? I did. What are the chances of this hiring manager from Pepsi referring my resume to the hiring manager from Disney who was looking for an IT resume? The chances are high. What are the chances of resumes for all of those IT people who walked by the booth to have their resumes forwarded? Zero, because they didn't refer their resume. They didn't leave their resume with that booth. So when you go to a job fair, it's all about networking. It's about sharing your LinkedIn page and having people join your network and creating activity on your network. So job fairs are a real good place to go. Also, anywhere where employers meet, it's a good place to network. Or any place where large numbers of job seekers meet, especially if it's an association that has to do with your background. You know, let's say you are an operations manager, and there's an association for that, and people meet once a month. It's a good place to be to network. I hope that answers your question, Craig. Any other questions? I'll be happy to answer them at this time. I don't have any more questions to wrestle with here. Not that I wrestle with any of them, but that term came to mind. Any other questions? Okay, while some of you are thinking about potentially having a question and typing them in, let me show you what the next step is here. For those of you who are graduating, if you're not graduating today, then you want to go back to anycouncil.org. Let me take you to that page right now. You want to go to anycouncil.org. I have the page up right now. You should be able to see it in just a moment. Okay, so you want to go to anycouncil.org and go to Get Back to Work training, click on it, and go to Make Up Missed Sessions. And you can make up missed sessions here if you're not graduating today. Let's say you came to session 6, but you missed session 3 or 2. You can then go here. If you are graduating, then you know exactly what you need to do now. You want to create your resume, start sending it out, keep a copy of the job description and the resume you're sending to an employer on your desktop, right? So the way that works is, just so that I can show you this on my desktop, you're going to have your PIP. Now, we talked about the PIP in session 3, right? This is your record of which employers you have applied to. So you have this file on your desktop. In your desktop, you're going to have other folders. So one is Pepsi. I'm applying to Pepsi, right? Another folder is Disney. I've applied to Disney. Hopefully these jobs you didn't randomly apply to, they were referred to you. And when you go into Disney, you should have a file that has job descriptions. You don't have to have a folder. It could be a file, right? So it could be a file. You have job descriptions. You can have another file, which is your resume. And it would be you should have the name of your resume, and followed by the name of the company, because then you can search for it and quickly find it. So customer service that was sent to Disney, job description for the customer service. You can put the job description and then so you can search for these two very quickly if you need to. And then the third should be your research. And you can put customer service here to know that this was your, because Disney may have multiple positions that you apply to. And each resume you send them is specific to that position, right? So now at any given time, when an employer calls you, or you call the employer back because they left a voice message for you, you can go to your PIP file, pull up any employer you need to talk to, and go to the job description or the resume or the research you've done with them, and be able to speak to that employer in an informed way. So going back to the website here, to anycouncil.org, you can also meet with your career coach to go over the job description or the resume that you've sent them, and have your career coach answer your questions for you. I got to tell you that these sessions are brief, so they're not detailed. We're not going to spend a lot of time like we do with members here. Any of you that are members, then you go to a different place. So members, you click up here. We want to thank all of you who became members for your donation to our projects Hero, To Hire, and Projects Hope. You would come here to schedule your session. So you go to Meet a Career Coach as a member. And this is a different session than the one graduates go through. It's more entailed. We help you type the content of your resume. And this is where you go to participate in the session. So starting today, after we look to see if there are any questions, if there aren't any, you will leave this session as an alumni. We are proud of you for completing the 6 sessions. You can always come back to this link here, Get Back to Work Now training, makeup sessions. Very soon we will have an archive of videos for your class, and it will be in a login. It's not programmed into the site yet, but it will be. And you can go into that archive. You can keep your PIP in your archive when you log in, and you'll have access to videos directly through your login. And that's where you'll go to. Let me see if there's any other questions before I continue on. Okay, so Matthew asks, regarding graduation, you presented our Experience Unlimited group and invited us to join Class 8 Session 2. Am I going to graduate? Matthew, you will graduate if you've completed all 6 sessions. So this was Session 6, and I can check into our system for you afterwards, Matthew, to see which classes you have, which sessions you have completed. If this is the only session that you've come to, you want to complete session 1 through 5 to graduate. You do have to graduate from all 6 sessions, or complete all 6 sessions to graduate. Okay, Raphael, where do I go to verify that I received credit for all classes attended? You can just send us an email and we can check for you. So for instance, I can go into our system here and I would type your name, Raphael. I'm going to do it on the side here because I don't want everyone to look at your information. But I can take a look here. So let's see, Raphael Margolin, there you are. I'm going to pull up your information and tell me, Raphael, type for me what classes you've completed and I can verify that for you. I show that you've gone through all 5 classes. So the way we show it is like this, Raphael. Is you registered, you came to all 5 sessions, you're waiting to complete session 6 to graduate. And then when you place, you let us know you were placed and we record your placement here. So that's how it works. You don't have to type it in, I already saw it. If it's different, feel free to type in which classes you completed, but it looks like it shows you completed all classes. Nolene, please repeat where to go to graduate. Okay, so if you've completed all 6 classes, Nolene, you go to our website, go to anycouncil.org. So here's the address on the very top. Then you click on Get Back to Work Now training, and just by completing all 6 sessions, Nolene, you've graduated. So you don't have to do anything. But if you want to meet a career coach anytime in the future, you click here. Meet a career coach as a graduate. Non-graduates cannot because you need a password. And a password will be sent to you if you graduated. And you can then access a career coach. Shelly Hutar asks, can we still become a member with a discount code? Shelly, the discount code is offered for a limited time, and that discount code is not offered once it expires. And but you can always go to become a member. You click on members and you go to become a member, and this is where you go to become a member. Okay, Tracy, can I reapply for membership, and if so, is there a discount code? Oh, same question, Tracy. Yeah, to become a member, I'm sorry, the discount code has expired for your class, but you can always go to this link here to become a member. Mildred, where will the alumni receive our certificate of completion? Mildred, the certificate will be mailed to you. And if we have your mailing address in our system, we'll be able to mail it to you. If we don't, then it won't be mailed to you. It won't even be printed, actually. You have to have an address for your certificate to be printed. If you want to put in your address into the system, you go to anycouncil.org, click on Job Seeker Login, and when you go to Job Seeker Login, if you haven't created a profile, you create a profile here. If you have created a profile, log in to put in your address. Weston Williams asks, I think I missed a class. Can you verify whether you made session 4? Yeah, I'll be happy to do that. As soon as I answer all the questions, I'll be happy to do that for you, Weston. Matthew asks, you told us that the live presentation would be accepted as class 1 if we registered at class 2. That's the question. I'm not sure, Matthew, I understand what the question is. You told us that the live presentation would be accepted as, you mean session 1, right? Accepted as session 1? If we registered at class 2, I can check your account for you, Matthew. Don't log out when we're done. Stay on the call and I can check for you. Let's see, Nolene, can I send my resume to you? I may have already done that. You know, Nolene, if you send your resume to me, there's nothing I can do with it because we don't respond to resumes via email or via a phone call. The way we answer questions is through the graduation page on our website. So you go to the graduation page right here, you go to anycouncil.org, and you go to Get Back to Work Training right here, and then you go to Graduates, already graduated, Meet a Career Coach. That's how we answer questions for resumes, interviews, any kind of questions you have. That's how we answer it. If you email me a resume, any of you email us a resume, you probably won't get a response because we're not set up to respond in that way. We have hundreds, potentially thousands of applicants that are in our system going through classes, and certainly thousands of graduates. And if all of them send us their resumes, it would paralyze our operations, right? So the way we're set up so that we can help everyone is through the graduates link. Let's see. While I'm waiting for any additional questions anyone would have, I'm going to check a few things here. So I'll wait for questions. I'm also waiting for Richard, who's one of our members. He was going to log in so that I can help him with his resume. I don't know if he's on the call. Maybe he is. Let me just double check to see if Richard made it to the session so we can look at his resume together and everyone can watch. Let's see. No, I don't see him on the roster. So we'll wait a few moments for him, see if he's going to make it to the call with us. I'm going to check a few things here while more questions are coming through. And we're going to wait for Richard to see if he logs in. Okay. Weston, I show you missed session 5. You made session 1, 2, 3, 4, but missed session 5, Weston. Matthew, I show that you missed session 1, but you've completed session 2, 3, 4, 5, and today's 6. So if you like, you can call me about that session because I'm not quite understanding what your question is. Okay, so let's see here. Janice asks a question about her certificate. We may not have your address in the system, Janice. I'll follow up to see if we have your address in the system, Janice. Let's see here. I'll make a note here for myself. Let's see here. Weston, to make up classes you go to our website, anycouncil.org, right? Go to our website, anycouncil.org, then click on Get Back to Work Training. You click on Get Back to Work Training and make up missed sessions. This is where you go. Craig, did you have a question? Feel free to ask if you did. Okay, Craig asks, okay, so Craig asks information about confirmation of membership. That was sent to you, Craig, but I think we had some email difficulties, right? So please stay on the call. Let me make sure that's all sent out to you while you're checking your email, and I'll check into that for you. Yeah, Matthew, the session that we did at Experience Unlimited, that was not session 1. We did like a 1-hour session. It was just an intro, and it wasn't a complete session. So if I told you you can get credit for that session, I apologize, because it wasn't a complete session. But you can stay on the call and we can talk about it after we're done with the session. Monica asks, will the webinar notes be provided for review after sessions ended? The answer is no, Monica. We will have a video that will be up on YouTube for a couple of days, and you can watch that video if you like, but it'll be pulled down. And eventually you'll have a login where you can go in and look at the videos from your class. But that's in a few months. Nolene, to upload your resume, go to anycouncil.org, right? And go to Job Seeker Login, which is right up here. And when you click on Job Seeker Login, you can either create a profile or log into your profile to upload your resume. Yeah, so Weston, you're saying you're getting an error message for not found for makeup session 5. What you want to do is just like do everything I'm doing. Go to anycouncil.org right here, okay? Then click on Get Back to Work Training. And then to make up a session, click on Makeup Session at Class 9 or Makeup Session at Class 10. If you went here, you can also do it here, I believe. If they, yeah, you can also do it in classes, but you don't want to go to class 5 because that's already finished. That class is done, right? I'm not sure where you went to, Weston, to get that error message. Yeah, so you want to go here, either Makeups Missed Sessions Class 9 or Class 10, one of these two. Okay, let me check something for Cheryl here real quick. While we're waiting for more questions. Cheryl, I show you have completed session 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and today you have completed session 6. Let me check something for Craig Goodman regarding his email. So Craig, the email address that we have on you is the one that you have sent me. And as can you check your email? I'm going to send you the membership email and see if you receive it. Because I'm sending it to the email that you just chatted with us here. Let me know if you received it, Craig. I just sent it to you. I sent you 2 emails, okay? 2 membership emails. One is containing the online sessions, and one is containing all the downloadable guides, the ones that you can download. I just sent them to you. Nolene, if you look on the screen, so you go to anycouncil.org, right? So go to anycouncil.org. And if you look at the job seeker login, it should be at the top of the page right here. Can you see me move my mouse, Nolene? It's right up here. Let me know if you can see me point at the job seeker login and if you found it. It's right up here. Yeah, it should be up here, Nolene. If you can't find it, I'll have to call our IT to see why, to make sure it's showing up on all browsers. Maybe using a different browser. I'm using the Google's browser, Chrome. Yeah, it's right up here. Yeah, Nolene, maybe you're on the wrong page. You have to go to anycouncil.org. Go to the home page. Put in this address, and you should be able to find it on the top page, just like I've pulled it up. Okay, Chris asks if we can look at his resume. I'll be happy to look at your resume, Chris. Normally, we don't do that in this session, but I'll look at one resume, and we'll look at Chris's resume, because we were supposed to look at Richard's resume, but he's not here yet. So let's look at Chris's, and let me make you the presenter, Chris. Do you want me to make you the presenter, Chris, or do you want to email me your resume? Let me know what you want to do. If you have no more questions and you don't want to wait for Richard, because I'm going to wait 5-10 minutes for Richard, is a member who wanted his resume looked at. If you don't have any more questions and don't want to look at Richard's resume, then feel free to log out. It was a pleasure working with you, training you, being here every Wednesday. I have just as much fun as I hope you had, and I look forward to working with you within the weeks and months to come. Our goal is for you to find employment. Let's get this done. Take care, everyone. If you don't have any more questions, feel free to log out. Otherwise, you're welcome to stay on the call. I'm going to review Chris's resume and see if Richard's going to make it to the call. Take care, everyone. Yeah, Craig, do you want me to, would you mind if I show the profile on the screen, or actually what I can do is show the email that went out. Yeah, see right here. See, the email that just went out is this one, and it went to this email right here. And I sent 2 emails. See these 2 emails right here? These are the 2 that I just sent you to this email address. Is that the right email address? Take a look. Yeah, check your bulk too, because Gmail has a tendency to sometimes send emails to the bulk. So take a look at your bulk as well. I'm going to resend it again, and then I'm going to CC myself. I'm going to CC myself to see if I receive it. Darren asks, you showed up at 10:15 and whether you need 1.5 hours of login. Yes, Darren. If you logged in at 10:15, they will not credit you for this session. You can go onto our website and make up session 6. Let's see here. Or what you can do, Darren, is send me an email requesting the video, and I will send you the video, and after you watch the video, send us an email request saying that you completed it, and then we'll credit you for that session. Nolene, if you don't have the password, click on Forgot Password, and I'll send you your password. Chris, I haven't received your resume yet, so if you're emailing to me, just so that you know I haven't received it. We're waiting for Chris's resume. We're going to review Chris's resume so that you all can also watch. And he has said that he's going to email me his resume. So we're waiting for that resume to arrive so we can review it together. Chris, I haven't received the resume yet. Are you sending it to Fred Omid? Here, let me send you my email address. Yeah, send the resume to that email address and we can review it together here. There may be some hiccups along the way as I'm recording this session. Chris, just received it. Okay, so let's take a look here. So you're asking for us to look at your skills profile. So let's take a look. Security officer. Now the way we look at the skills profile is by reading a lot of job descriptions in the field of security officers and then finding some common ground. So every employer hiring for security officers looking for the following: an excellent problem solver, professional appearance, proper notebook maintenance, attention to detail, quick decision maker, good communicator, written and verbal, observant, physically fit. If that statement is true, that all employers hiring for security officers are looking for these qualities, then you've done a good job. You should keep everything here. If there are some things here that all employers hiring for security officers are looking for, but you have not included here, then you want to add them in. If there are some things here that some employers hiring for security officers do not want, so a company hiring security officers does not want professional appearance. They don't care about that. Some do, but not all. Then you want to take this out from your base resume and only include it for that one employer that's interested in it. It looks to me that everything you've included here seems to be what companies hiring for security officers want. So I think you've done a good job. So did you have any other questions, Chris? Chris writes, got it. I was mostly concerned about the format. If it looks good, I will add the best skills. Excellent. Good job. This is you've done a fine job. Just looking at it, it looks like you have everything put together well. You've combined security, 6 years, got rid of all the gaps. Excellent job. Let's see here. Nolene asks if I could look at her resume. I said I would only look at one resume. And so I looked at that resume, but I'm going to look at Nolene's resume. But this is the last one I'm going to look at today, really. This is really the last one I'm going to look at. All right, Nolene, so let's see. You have 2 resumes. You want to teach art and get out of medical assisting. Anyway, new grads for medical assistant are not required. Please, can you have a quick look at one of my resumes? So email me the one you want me to look at, Nolene. Email me the one you want me to look at, and we'll look at it together. Yeah, my email address, I send it to everybody. I think you should have received it too. It was sent just earlier today to everyone. Let me see. I just sent it to everyone, so you should receive it as well. Send it to that email address. It's fred.omid@anycouncil.org. No, Lena, I haven't received a resume yet, and we have to log out at 11:30. So, but I'll stay on for another 5-10 minutes. If you want to send me the resume, I'll wait for it. Please email it to fred.omid@anycouncil.org. No, Lynn, I still haven't received it. Received the email. Sometimes it takes some time, but just so that you know, I haven't received it yet. Chris, I'll check into that for you. No problem, Nolene. We'll wait here until it gets here. Chris, I show you've completed all 5 sessions, and the only session that hasn't been made is today's. So you made up today's, and with that you have completed all 6 sessions. Thank you, Craig. Thank you for the feedback. No, you know, Nolene, I didn't receive it. Maybe I can I access it through your profile online? Have you uploaded your resume, Nolene? Okay. So this is the one that I have uploaded. I show uploaded in our system. This one right here. The one I show is the fine arts instructor. That's not the one you want, right? Okay. Yeah, you can upload it through the same place you logged in where you requested a password. Once you log in, then you can upload it through that area there. But I haven't received it via email either. Sometimes it takes a little bit. Thank you, Philip. Thank you for your feedback. Take care. Look forward to talking to you soon. Yeah, see, Nolan, here's my email. This is Chris's emails. And I'm going to click send and receive. See that there's no email coming through. And I check my bulk. There's nothing in the bulk. And these are all the junk email that I got to get rid of that came in between 9 and now. But nothing from Nolene. See that? You want to send it to me again? I'll wait. What you can do, Nolan, is if we don't get it emailed, then you can always go onto the website, go to anycouncil.org, and as a graduate, register for one of these classes, Nolan. Meet a career coach. I'll wait a few more minutes to see if we can get it for you so we can not only review it for you, but have everybody else participate in looking at the changes we make. But if we don't get it in the next couple of minutes, then you can always register for one of those sessions. How we doing, Nolene? There it is. Just got it. Okay, so let's take a look at it here. Okay, the one I have is the Fine Instructor one. Is that the one you want us to review? Okay, so the very top here, Nolene, what we should put here is your qualification summary. And if you remember, the qualification summary is a collection of words that describes why you would make a great fine art instructor. So you've done a good job putting your path here. I would make the path a little bit larger, right? Maybe a little bit larger. Your name is good up here, phone number, email, very good job. I would turn these bullets into a qualification summary statement. It's okay if you have it in bullets too, but it's better if it's one that can be read, right? So 3 or 4 lines. Enthusiastic, self-motivated, fine arts painting instructor, exceptional, well-organized, and resourceful, ability to motivate students and increase self-esteem. Okay, so if I was to read every job description that existed in your area for fine arts instructors, would the first thing they would all want was someone who's enthusiastic and self-motivated? If the answer is yes, then you've done the right thing by putting this here as the first statement they would read. If the answer is no, then we want to find what is it that they all want, and then we put that which they all want and is important to them as the first thing here on your resume. Work experience. I would take all the cities and states out. These dates, it looks like there's only a year at each one. It could represent some risk. You want to fix the track record the way we talked about in class. Maybe you put arts instructor 5 years, right? And then take these dates out. Take the cities out unless you want to limit what is the word I'm looking for? The distance in which employers will pursue you. If you want only employers in Irvine and Tustin, then leave the cities there. But if you are willing to drive beyond that, then take them out. Here, if you were a sales associate, customer service, did you have to teach customers on art? If you have to teach customers on art, you can put something here that describes that, that communicates that, so that your art instructor and art teaching is communicated in both of these titles. Claims clerk has nothing to do with fine arts instructor, so either take this whole thing out or argue how, as a claims clerk, there's relevancy to fine art as in instructions. Yeah, if you don't have 5 years of experience, then you don't have 5 years of experience, right? You just include what you have. But you may have other things, Nolene, that those with 5 years of experience don't have. You may have a great attitude. You have great level of perseverance. Those are things you'll talk about at the interview, right? And this claims clerk, if it doesn't apply to art, then take it out altogether. Same thing here with collections representative. That has nothing to do with fine arts instructions, right? Anything that has nothing to do with fine art, you take out. And these long paragraphs should be bulleted out the way we described in class 3 and 4. And if you're unsure how to do that, I would suggest you retake class 3 and 4, because we talk about work experience, especially in class 4. We talk about how to compose your work experience. Okay, so you're saying the rest of the resume is medical. That's great, but your path says art instructor. So the rest of the resume should not be medical. It should be taken out. Your resume should be what the path says it is, right? And this resume says fine arts instructor. So you could have a resume that's focused on medical and then include your medical experience on that resume. Does that make sense? I suggest you take class 4 again. You know, most people that take class 3 and 4, they have to take it 2 or 3 times before they become fully seasoned on how to complete their resume. And that's what I would suggest you do, Nolene. All right, very good. I want to thank all of you for your participation. Nolene, I invite you to come to class 3 or 4, and I look forward to seeing you there. I thank all of you for taking the time, participating in the sessions, and I look forward to also working with you in the future sessions. Take care, everybody. Good luck to all of you. I hope you find employment very quickly and that we can be a part of your success. Take care, everyone. Good luck.